you ever been overwhelmed by the stuff in your home or gone through your entire day and not really sure what you actually accomplished? Well, this interview is for you. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Jennifer Mahor, founder and CEO of Cultivating You, and she is going to share her insights as she became an entrepreneur over the past 17 years, as well as her biggest takeaway for what can help her, what has helped her move the needle in her business. But not only that, she is an organizing master. And if you need help with organization, literally either in your closet or in your life, like your time, she's the one that can help you get through it. Hi, I'm Jamie with Leeway Design, where we help you catch your community. If you like videos like these or you'd like to be featured on one of these CEO in Focus, make sure you click the link below and hop into our business and accountability brainstorm group. It's completely free and it's a lot of fun and a great way to meet other business owners. So let's jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where are you calling from, and what do you do? What are you in business for?
Awesome. So I am Jennifer Major. I am the CEO and founder of Cultivating You, and I've had my own business for almost 17 years now, and it's been a crazy morph of a lot of things. I'm in Houston, Texas, and have been for a long, long time, and mom of two girls, 15 and 23. So my oldest is out on her own now, and being an adult mom is actually one of the coolest things ever. And um, and I just, I freaking love what I do. And so the organizing has been there the whole time. So I've been a professional organizer for that whole time. Um, and I started out doing HR consulting because HR was my background, my master's certification, the whole bit. And but I wanted something fun in the mix. And so a friend of mine talked me into it because, 17 years ago, it wasn't much of a thing. So that's kind of a little of, the high level of who I am and what I do.
So you did HR on your own, essentially. Okay, so you were like businesses would contract you to handle their HR.
Yeah, I did, because I had worked in corporate, I'd worked in consulting, and then had gone through working in a lot of startups, especially like late 90s, early 2000s. There were a lot of high tech startups here in Texas, and did a lot of that, then left that to awkwardly go to Arthur Andersen for something more stable. 14 months later, it crashed. And so I decided, well, okay, then nothing's stable. So I'm just going to go do what I like. And I love startups. I love small businesses. And so I kept finding that they just, if you've got one employee, you have a need for HR,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't even afford, half an HR person. And so it just didn't make sense for them to have them on staff. And so oftentimes the office manager would sort of handle that because they did the payroll, but they weren't necessarily skilled at it. And so these companies who have, like hardly any employees, and, which means that like every employee is super uber valuable, right?
Right. 100%.
End up with these employees that were just crap for a long time because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to mentor them. They didn't know how to develop them, and they didn't know how to fire them. And so, and they were scared because at this point, like, they're friends, right? When you're only working with
Right.
3 people, you're friends. And so how do you fire a friend? And so, they didn't, well, I don't want the employee manual because, that's what corporate does. And, and
Right.
it felt too restrictive. I'm like, you don't have to have a 40-page employee manual, but if you have no rules, you can't hold people accountable.
Right.
And so that's really so much of where it started. It was just like, I had a bunch of friends who had small businesses, and they're like, oh my God, would you help us, please? And so I'd write them a really simple employee manual. I'd support them with employee development and, kind of giving them some structure. And then when there was any sort of employee relations issue, I would help them with that. And it got to be the joke at a lot of my small businesses that if they saw Jennifer walk in, then somebody was probably getting fired or in trouble.
Oh no.
And I was like, I have to start at least coming for lunch like once a quarter just to hang out,
Hey
something,
guys.
because I was the
You're
Grim
home
Reaper.
safe. That's funny.
Seriously. Because I mean, that was the only time that I would show up, and this was way before we had Zoom and all that kind of thing. And so, you can do a lot of things by phone.
Right.
You don't really want to fire somebody by phone if you don't have to. And so the Grim Reaper would show up, and here I was. But there's a lot of laws in HR. There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of details. And even though I wasn't necessarily doing the day-to-day stuff, it just, like, I enjoyed the benefit of it, and I enjoyed being able to help people, and like firing people way doesn't bother me. I like firing people way more than I like hiring people. Recruiting and all that, just not my jam. But it wasn't fun. And I carried it as a very heavy burden because it felt like, especially for, you're a small business owner, right? That's a 24/7 operation in your head. And so that was the problem, is that for all these small business owners, it was a 24/7 operation in their head. So when they would think of something that was even remotely HR related, I would get a call, I would get a text, I would get an email, and they expected a response.
Oh.
If it was something employee relations wise, they expected it to be immediate. And so it was really heavy. And I was walking into a season where I was going to be having a baby and wanted some more flexibility, and just frankly wanted to do something a little more fun. And I did the organizing stuff for friends, like for just to help them out all the time. And so they were like, why don't you just do that? Peter Walsh had an organizing show where he would come out, and that was kind of the only organizing thing people saw other than like the super wealthy, right? But he would come in and he would empty out your space, get everything organized, but he also had this entire decorating team. So like everything would get repainted, there would be new furniture, like there was a budget, right?
Right.
And I was like, no, that's not what I do. I'm not painting your walls. I'm not doing the super cleaning. I'm not, so defining what that was for a lot of people was hard. But it was fun because I could go and I could leave it. Occasionally I would get the phone call of like, hey, do you remember where we put X? But it was fun, and it would make people smile. And it was hard work physically. And it was, for them, it was hard work physically and sometimes mentally and emotionally, certainly, depending on what we were working on. But it was, in the end, like everybody was happy. Everybody was smiling. It was beneficial and enjoyable. And God, don't we all want to do that work every day, right?
Exactly.
And make people smile.
To serve it just fills your cup. So how did you go from, so was the transition from HR into organizing like gradual, or did it evolve?
No, it really evolved. Well, and I was doing them simultaneously. So, I'd go out and do my 3-hour sessions for my organizing work, because obviously it was all in person at that point. And then I'd fit my HR stuff around that, because most of that could happen whenever. And then one of the things that I did, which, looking back, that I really love, is that I tried a lot of different things. So like I tried doing some concierge work, realized I absolutely hated that, but it got me a client that I ended up being what now would be referred to, I guess, as an OBM. Like I was truly her entire business manager. And so for me, it was kind of a little HR, some good organizing. It was organizing I could do sitting inside my home. But I helped her write her curriculum. I did her travel plans. I did all sorts of things, and basically helped her run her business as it grew and grew and grew. And I, let go of the concierge stuff because that was not my jam. The balance of the money and what I was doing, I'm like, I don't even like going grocery shopping for myself. Like, why am I doing this for other people? It's not my thing. And I tried a different model where I had a bunch of different service providers that, so like somebody could come to me for HR, but I also had a couple of accountants and a couple of marketing people and a couple of this. And so that could, it could all go under one invoice, and they could come to one trusted resource to do a lot of
everything
things.
They needed, essentially.
Yeah. And it was great, and it expanded the business, and then it was hard. And so shrunk the business. And like, I used to do websites. I've tried a lot of different things, which I love. The organizing was always there. The HR was always there.
Gotcha.
And about 4 years ago, I hit the wall and had that whole, like, and every entrepreneur will do this, of what the hell is the point of this? Right? I'm working my tail off. I'm making good money. I enjoy part of what I'm doing, but not all of it. But it's hard. Like, I don't get paid vacation days. I don't get somebody else paying for my cell phone. And like, yeah, there's the write-offs and that, but it's different than working for somebody else, right? And having all that stuff sort of happen. Taxes are easier when you just get a W-2, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I went and I worked, actually, I went to go work in sales for one of the clients that I'd been HR for, which was super awkward at first. 7-person company. I had been the Grim Reaper. I was still in that role. I mean, I had fired so many people there. And so it was, the people who had gotten in trouble with me, that was a little awkward because now we're peers. So we had to do a little extra work there. And so, I mean, part of it was great. I made great money. It was consistent. I had paid vacation. I didn't have the same freedoms because they told me when to be in the office and when not to be in the office, and when I could go out and like, I couldn't even manage my own sales function. And so tried working with it, and I learned a hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned that I just have too much entrepreneurial blood in me, because I was constantly in the mode of, well, how can we do this better? How can we tweak this? And that was not suiting them, because again, the owner was very old school. I mean, classic 70 something white male, and just, and literally the only job I've dropped the mic, walked out on.
Really?
He got in my face and told me that, after yelling at me, and I left and went into my office and was getting my things, and literally got in my face and was like, look, I'm the owner of this company. I'm the boss. I can do whatever I want to you. I can say whatever I want to you whenever I want to. At the same time, the office manager's like opening the door and she's like, she's HR, right? She could destroy us. And it was just like, F off, later.
Yeah.
Got my things and left. And I mean, even as I've been working since I was 14, never walked out on a job. I'm like that super responsible. I give like 3 or 4 weeks notice if I'm leaving and that kind of thing. But it was terrible. And went and did some part-time work doing marketing and some HR stuff for another company in my, okay, so what's next phase, right? And I had started a side hustle doing doTERRA oils, which I love, but had to figure out again, kind of, what do I really want? And what it really came back to was, I really wanted to do organizing 100% full time. No more HR, no more taking the classes to keep up my certification. No, and it was hard because I've got my master's in it. I had my certification in it.
Yeah.
And so to let that go, and knowing that if I wanted to get back in that world, it would be really, really hard. But the reality was, if I wanted to go back into the HR field at that moment, outside of a small company, it was still going to be really, really hard. And so, because I hadn't been in it for a long time. And so I guess it was about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I was like, nope, I'm all in. We're going to throw everything else out. I'm going to go all in. About 7 years ago, I had these dreams of, doing more virtual so I could serve more people. And I did some coursework then, and it just seemed really hard and really expensive. And, to get the tech that you needed, and to do 7, 8 years ago, it was way more expensive than it is now.
Right.
And so, so I still had that was still sort of tickling, but I was like, and I knew I wanted to speak because I wanted to be able to reach a broader audience. Mm-hmm. But the thought of speaking, even to like 3 people in a room, literally made me want to vomit. And so
100%.
And I realized over the course of like, okay, well, I just have to do it. And sometimes like there was a vodka cranberry involved, not going to lie.
Whatever it takes.
Well, liquid courage, right? But it was that I was nervous when I was talking about the HR stuff, because I am not a good fact recaller, right? And so if somebody said, well, what law was that from? Or what regulation was that from? Or what? I couldn't remember off the top of my head. I'm a metabolizer when I learn. And so I can't recall off the top of my head, oh, so-and-so said this, or so-and-so said that, or it was this or that. That's not how my brain works. And so it just always made me so nervous because I was like, somebody is going to judge me. They're going to ask me a question. And then I'm going to constantly be saying, I'm not sure. Let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Because I'm confident enough to know what I don't know and feel comfortable saying that. But when that's all you say, then all of a sudden it's like, well, what the hell do you know? Right. So, but then once I was stepping into it with organizing, I was like, okay, first of all, this is not a black or white kind of thing, right? There's not a right and a wrong way to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So I can't really screw it up because I'm talking about my own way of doing something and my own way of thinking. And so, and if somebody challenges that, that's okay. I'm happy to have that conversation and talk through that. And so it just got easier and easier. And I took some classes to refine my techniques and in speaking and that kind of thing. And the more I did it, the easier it got. And then did a crap ton of inner work because I knew, like, if I'm going to be out on a bigger stage, whether literally or figuratively, right, then there's that many more people who could judge me. There's that much more that can sort of come at me. I've got to have the inner stuff solid.
Yeah.
To the extent that you can, right? You're always doing the inner work, but to be able to sort of combat that, right? And be able to step forward with confidence in who I am, whether I'm talking about Jello or organizing. And so did a lot of that. Had in 2020, I was going to, have this beautiful plan that I'm still doing my in-home stuff, but I'm going to start a membership. I'm going to start online courses, all of this stuff. Started my first online course in January, like started kind of coming up with my outline and started building it and figuring out the platform I wanted to be on, all of that. And then my world blew up. My mom went in the hospital with an aneurysm. My grandfather went in the hospital same weekend and died 5 days later. It was her dad. Everybody in my family, like myself, my husband, and my youngest, all had some medical issues. And literally we're just sort of coming out of that. And then we were in quarantine.
Oh my gosh. So this was all like recent stuff.
Yeah. And so, so 2020 was going to be like, okay, so I'm going to do this virtual stuff more, but it's going to be slow because I'm going to interweave it between all my in-person stuff, which was then there wasn't even that much of it because of this other, and the other thing that I had committed to myself was that, and this is something that I would absolutely tell every entrepreneur is you have to know where your boundaries are. You have to know where you're not willing to give up your business for anything. Doesn't mean it might not change or shift or more for, not necessarily pause, but like sometimes you have to pause it, right? But sometimes it's like, okay, well, what can I dial it back with? Or, like I was talking with my coach Abby yesterday. She's like, right now we got to simplify to amplify, right? So it's time to dial some things back. You've been in growth mode. It's time to slow down, nurture, and take a breath a little bit, right?
I love that. Simplify to amplify.
I know. Isn't that so good?
Really
Every time she says it, I'm like, dang it, that's really, really so good. And neither of us can remember who originally said it. It's so annoying. We know somebody. I keep thinking maybe it's Donald Miller, but I'm not sure. But I was so committed to not letting things go just because hard stuff was happening that I literally started my Kajabi trial sitting in the ICU room with my mom and built my course there. And then I took like a day and a half off. I went to we've got a place in the Texas Hill Country. So I went out there and I was like, I've got to do videos and I don't know when I'm going to do them. I've got to let go of the whole perfectionist thing because at this point, I hadn't worn makeup in weeks, right? Because the eyes were puffy. What was the point? Because I literally cried every day. And I was like, I just got to rip the Band-Aid because people are paying for the content, not how good I look. So, and not what my background looks like, not people are paying for the content. So let me just get this damn thing out the door with some content. And so I literally sat on the porch with my phone And I got myself like, I put some like it was basically Zoom attire, right? So I looked good on the top.
Good up here. Yeah.
Right. What we now know is Zoom attire. Because I hadn't planned this, so I didn't take anything with me. And my mom is not the same shape or size I am. So I'm literally going through the clothes that she has at our country place, right? And what I've gotten, like, how can I fit something in? How can I get my green in? Like, where can I, and okay, so what can I prop up? And it was terrible. It was a riot. And then there's like this angry cow in the background. There's occasionally a plane that's flying over, but I did it and I shoved it out. And on the day that my free trial ended, I launched it and 3 people bought it.
I love that.
And I didn't care if anybody else did. Right. And so like I've been doing my promotion. I've been putting it out there. I started getting active on social probably in the fall, like October. I've had my Facebook group for a long time, but I only had Instagram because my youngest wanted it and I wouldn't let her have it initially. And so I got Instagram, but it was all her friends. And then at some point I was like, nope, I'm kicking you off. You can have your own Instagram now. And this is going to be mine. I still have her friends on there. Why they stay, I don't know, but
it's good stuff.
Yeah. So, but it was that whole, you know what? Like, I'm committed to myself and I'm committed to my business. And does it look different than I envisioned it even 2 weeks ago? Yeah. But I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to do this really flipping hard thing. And I'm going to shove this little course baby out there. And it was a beautiful distraction.
Yeah.
In the midst of all this other chaos. And, because like, what else are you going to do sitting in the ICU room? You can only read so many magazines. You can only hang out so much. 100%. She was sleeping most of the time, except at night when I needed the woman to sleep. And so it was like, okay, well, I'm going to try it. And what the hell? Right. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I would say that's probably another great lesson for entrepreneurs is the what the hell, like shove it out there imperfectly, shove it out there messy, and try it.
Done is better than perfect. And also you got to test ideas. But I love how you were in this season of real challenge, but when you shifted to service, it helped, right? I mean, you were serving people, even though it wasn't the way you wanted it or pictured it.
Right.
Like you served, and that's what made it go forward. So I'd love to know, what advice would you give new entrepreneurs, or like in their first year, what advice would you give them to stay the course, or especially now, because everything's changed. So we're all dealing with a period of change that we're not necessarily expecting to deal with. I would love to know what your piece of advice that has kept you charging forward, even when it gets really hard.
Part of it is, everybody else says, know your why, right? And I think, and I've been really sort of sitting on this a lot this week as I'm, sort of transitioning sort of by force out of the season of growth into the season of nurturing, and simplifying a little bit. And, school's getting ready to start for us and lots of other change. Right. And so really looking at what that why really means. And like, you've got your why for your business. Like the why am I doing X, Y, and Z? Why am I doing organizing? Why am I doing marketing? Why am I doing fishing? Why am I doing whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also the why am I in business for myself, which is different, right? And that's the why that stays the same no matter what your business does. Because at some point your business is going to morph, or you're going to throw something else in there because, ooh, that looks like fun. Let's try that. Right? And that will have its own why. Mm-hmm. But your why you have your own business is that key. And if you don't have that well defined, and most of us don't, most of us figure out the why we're doing what we're doing, as opposed to why we're in business for ourselves within whatever that bubble looks like. And so I think having both of those is super critical, because the why you're in business for yourself is going to be what keeps it going. And understanding what your commitment is and what your boundaries are on that. So, like for me, it was I'm not going to give up my business again. You know, my husband's father passed away several years ago, and I literally walked away from my business for 3 months. And so, you know, rebuilding that is really freaking hard, right? If you build a good business, you can do that, you know, because there are seasons where you have to do that for sure. But are there ways you can do other things, you know? And I think some of it too is, and this is so much more of a conversation, especially now during COVID, is what other sources of income do you have? Like, we don't just all have I do one business with one source of income in it. You know, I teach courses or I speak, or like, we're not doing just one thing often, but making sure that that's still congruent and in alignment with both of those whys, because otherwise you're scattered and you're tired, and how the hell do you sell that?
Right.
You know? So the whys are key, though. The why you have your own business.
I love
Absolutely.
that. And, you know, the biggest person we have to sell is ourselves every day.
Every day. Every day.
Another thing I'd love to touch on is if you were to think about what the biggest needle mover has been for you, just through the whole journey of everything you've done, what has moved the needle the most in a positive direction in your business? It's a surprise question.
No, I mean, it's just, you know, it's one of those, it's like, oh, to pick just one. It's like having to pick your favorite kid. Okay, so I can't pick. So I'm just going to say two, because
I love it.
Well, because one of them is doing that inner work. So really getting to know who you are, clearing out as much of the crap as you can, because it just gives you such a solid personal foundation. Because there is no greater way to get knocked on your ass than to own your own business, right? Because there's stuff coming at you all the time, and it's hard. And I would say the other is getting a great coach.
I love it.
Because you're going to get stuck. You're going to have questions. You're going to want to shift or adjust, or, you know, have a, you know, pandemic pivot. And to have somebody else who knows you, knows your business, and that you absolutely trust is so critical in that process. And they're not just a passive coach. It's somebody that you're one-on-one with, you know, at least a couple times a month. Somebody who will hold you accountable, but will also hold you in grace. Because both are necessary. You know, when you're going through a hard season, whether it's personal or professional, you need both of those in there. And so, and I've talked to some friends who've got coaches that are like, okay, did you do this? If not, I'm going to be upset. Okay, well, I don't need my coach to be upset with me. You're not my parent. Right? I'm paying you. I need you to encourage me. I need you to hold me accountable, but I don't need you to be upset with me. like I'm, you know, like, I like making my coach proud. Right? But I don't ever walk into a conversation thinking, oh gosh, I hope she's not upset with me because I didn't do X. No, that's not the right coach then.
How did you find the right coach? Did you try some out first?
Oh yeah, no, you got to try them on. Yeah. It's like finding the right pair of jeans.
That's
you know, some of them look so much better on the rack than they do on the fit. You know, or they say they're built for hips and they're not. So, and some of it goes back to those whys, right? Like, so you have to have somebody who's in good alignment with that, right? Who's going to support that. And I would say, get out of your own damn way. So don't put this idea in your head that somebody who's been coaching for, you know, I mean, I've been in business for 17 years almost, that like, I need somebody who's been in business longer than me to be my coach. So they understand what it's like to be a long running business, or they, you know, whatever. Because it's all BS, right? A good coach is a good coach. A good coach is somebody who I think has the skills and the knowledge, but also the intuition and the personality and the characteristics, right? And so, and you've got to decide like how much of one of those is more important to you? Like, I wanted somebody who was super intuitive. I wanted somebody who could ride with the woo side of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I've had coaches that are very formulaic and, here's my program. You do this. I coach you through this. Okay. I mean, did I learn things? Sure. But it was like, I felt like I was serving them rather than their program and them serving me.
Right.
And so I think having somebody who can connect with you and who can serve a lot of different people, I think there's so much value in that, to be able to serve somebody who's, who sells products and who sells services and who's a coach and who's, and that kind of thing. And you just have to try them on. And I always say, like, give it 2 or 3 times. Like, don't get into any long-term contract until you've worked with them 2 or 3 iterations. If they ask for that up front, then I probably wouldn't do it. I mean, and even like, a 30-minute session with them, but like, you want to see their true colors, right? It's like dating. Like, everybody's on their best behavior the first couple of dates, but generally by that 3rd date, like, you're relaxing, you're who you are. Same thing happens with coaches oftentimes. And so, now there are some people who are like, oh my God, no, this is my person. And there are other people who are like, no, not my person. Honor that, right? You just you have to try them out, and you have to know what you're looking for. And some of that's just almost like a job description of what you're looking for. But I mean, they gotta jive with you.
I like that. I think it's a common thing you hear, that a coach moves the needle. And I like your advice about trying them out and finding the right person, and really stepping into what makes sense for you and listen to those intuitions. Absolutely. So I would also love to know more about organizing, because
absolutely
every business owner needs some sort of organization in life in some capacity, whether it's physical, mental, time. So how do you serve people? How does it work exactly, especially now that you're doing the virtual thing?
Yeah, so the virtual thing is a little crazy. That was a big shift. And not so much for me, because I was already doing some of it last year, kind of experimenting, but a bigger shift for my customers. Now, especially in the first part of this year, now that we all live in Zoom land, it's like, oh, well, we can do anything if you can have a funeral on Zoom, if you can get married on Zoom, you can organize a damn closet on Zoom, right? And so now it's just so much easier to explain it to people. But so there's a couple of different ways to work with me. I've got a free Facebook group, so there's tips, tools, training, that kind of thing, that are there all the time, and awesome. That's just a fun space.
We'll put the link below this video.
Awesome. But then in terms of really being able to level up, I've got a wonderful, amazing membership, the Clear Your Chaos Collective.
Okay.
These are the most badass women. And I mean, in like all over the map, every different kind of woman, married, single, kids, no kids, entrepreneurs, stay-at-home moms, corporate, I mean, literally everything. And every single month we focus on one thing. You come in for a season. Of course, I hope you stay for many seasons, but every season has a theme. And then each month we work on just one thing, and we dive in deep on it. And so, and you've got a lot of support throughout, and it's a super fun group. And then the other one is through one-on-one coaching, because sometimes you just need that. And sometimes that's in addition to the membership stuff. Sometimes that's on your own. And it can be deep dive stuff, like a 90-minute intensive, like, let's just really get in and work on your closet or something like that. Right. Or it's a 30-minute, like, dude, I'm working on my pantry and I'm really super stuck. Can you help me figure this out? And most people think organizing and they think stuff, right? They think physical space, right? But I'm a big believer that your time has to be well organized too.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I preach all the time, is that you've got to have your time organized. And I do a time blocking method that's a little different. It's a little more modular, more like Legos. And so, because I mean, stuff comes up, right? And so does that mean that, like, if that was your time block and now something's come up and run into it, that, well, I guess I just don't do that now. No, that doesn't make any dang sense.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take that same time block, honor it, but let's move it. Right? But you
Like
want to
that.
make sure that it looks like what you want for your life. Like when you're looking at your whole day, your ideal schedule on a running average, right? If exercise is important to you, is that in there? If fishing is important to you, is that in there?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And is it on your actual dang calendar? And so if it's not on your calendar, you're not likely to keep that appointment with yourself. And so, um, I mean, I really do work so much with people on both. And one of the things that I'm going to do coming in October, which I'm really excited about, I did a lot last year, is I'm going to bring back organizing happy hours. Where,
How does that work?
oh, it's so much fun. So for hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on what you prefer, we get online, and usually it's like a 7:30 in the evening
Okay.
kind of thing. Now, when you've got multiple time zones, you figure it out, but we're also all living at home, so who cares? And
Yeah.
so you pour yourself a cocktail, and we work a lot of times. I would do them for closets because we could all use work in our closet, right? And I give you a little bit of guidance and teaching so that you know how to tackle it. And then you work through it, and we're all on, like, nobody's looking at your stuff because they're all working on their own closet. But it's like having girlfriends over while you're working on something hard,
I love that.
except that they're working on their same hard thing too. And you know, I think it should be in like some sort of sippy cup so you don't spill it as you're moving around. But they're just so much dang fun, and you get a lot done. It's like co-working, right? Now we know what Zoom co-working looks like,
Right.
So it's the same thing. It's just, we're all going to work in our closet at the same time, and it's fun, and we're having conversation. But if somebody gets stuck, I'm right there. If they're like, okay, I've got 40 sleeveless black shirts, how do I figure that out? And we talk through it.
I love it.
And so
you learn from other people's stuff too.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, and there have been some cases where somebody's like, okay, I've got like all these purses I'm getting rid of. And somebody else is like, I'll take one. And then they start shopping each other's stuff. But they're super fun. And it's a fun way for friends to hang out. And also,
how do people do this with you if they want to?
So I'll have, it'll be all over social. It'll be all over the links. Like I said, I'm starting those in October because I think those will be fun going towards the holidays. My membership opens back up September 1st. And so, starting the week of the 17th of August, enrollment will be open through the 31st.
Awesome. And
so that'll be out there. You can either pay monthly or pay for the entire season, but you come in for the season. Because I just think it's important to have that cohesive group of people right now. I'm exploring some different options. It's, again, we're in exploration and pivoting mode, but right now it's, you come in by the season. So end of August is enrollment for that. And one-on-one coaching, you can hit me up anytime. You can shoot me a DM or an email on my website, whatever is easiest for you.
So for your seasons, do you meet like this on Zoom?
We do. So I do a training where I go live once a week, and then we do co-working. Last month we did it once a month. This month we're just going to do once a month this time, but after that going forward, we're going to do twice a month.
Cool.
Because with school
you get
starting,
to know your group, and then you kind of meet people
for
essentially
sure.
too.
For sure. And it's not just, like it'll be a cumulative group. So like the next group, you're not coming in just as a cohort, right? So It's not group coaching. And so the 15 people that are already in there, the large majority of them are going to stay. And then there'll be another, 20 or 30 that come in, and they'll, and it's just this beautiful sisterhood where
that's awesome.
You're there to support each other, and you're posting your pictures because it's a safe space. And you realize, like, I'm really not alone. Like, and some people, like when we did bathrooms last month, some people have these giant, huge bathrooms. And so when you've got a lot of storage, you tend to not be very well organized because you don't have to be, right?
Right.
And then one of the gals that's in there, who, Simone, lives in Denmark, and she's got a bathroom literally the size of a piece of toast. And so, I mean, it's this tiny little, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, because that's how European bathrooms are. I mean, it's literally this tiny little bathroom, but it doesn't mean that it still can't be well organized.
Right.
Right. And that you can't get creative with different things that might sit outside the bathroom that double as something else, or, you know, and so it doesn't matter, you know, kind of where you're coming from or what your space looks like. There's the opportunity to learn and grow for everybody. And again, to come together in that sisterhood. And it's a badass group of women, and it's so much fun.
I love it. And really, you feel better, you work better, everything, it feels better when you're organized. So I just think
For sure.
such an awesome opportunity for people. So if people want to follow you or get involved, or where can they find you?
So my website is cultivating-uyou.com. And on Instagram, I'm jennifer.cultivating.u. There's a lot of Jennifers out there.
And we'll drop all the links in the video description as well. So
beautiful.
It's been amazing having you on here. And I super look forward to learning more about this upcoming launch that you've got going on. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.